Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. The headlines: the Philippines' unemployment rate drops in August. The country's foreign exchange reserve surged to a record high. A U.S. judge orders tech giant Google to open its Android App Store to competition. And kicking off this year's Nobel Prize season, the prestigious award in physiology or medicine goes to 2 U.S. scientists for their discovery of microRNA. First, let's take a look at how Wall Street performed overnight. The Dow Jones, S&P 500, and Nasdaq all fell around 1% as investors lowered their expectations for a 50 basis point cut in November after a strong jobs report. U.S. Treasury yields rose, with the 10-year yield topping 4% for the first time in 2 months.
Coming off of last week, which was actually a flat week for the markets, but we had a lot of rotation underneath the hood. Energy was up almost 6%. Small caps are down. But more importantly, dollar rates and oil rallied last week, which is typically not a good thing for markets. So we're kind of in a wait and see mode with a lot of economic data coming out this week. CPI is coming, earnings season starts, Fed speakers are coming out and talking every day. So it's going to be a big week for the markets, and I think we're just digesting it today, waiting for all this events to happen.
In Europe, markets ended mixed. Germany's DAX closed flat as the country expects to remain in recession. The UK's FTSE 100 gained 0.3%, while France's CAC 40 rose by 0.5%. Over in Asia, Japan's Nikkei 225 is down 1%, and South Korea's Kospi is lower by about 1%. Australia's ASX 200 is unchanged. China is set to reopen after a week-long holiday with focus on potential policy announcements. Over in the commodities market, Brent crude surged above $80 a barrel, driven by speculation of possible tensions between Israel and Iran. Meantime, gold is trading flat as strong U.S. jobs data weakens the case for a big rate cut by the Fed in November. Now, data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows the jobless rate decreased to 4% from 4.7% in July. This translates to some 2.1 million unemployed Filipinos. The current rate is also lower than the 4.4% recorded a year ago. Meanwhile, the employment rate inched up to 96% in August compared to 95.3% in July. The country's foreign exchange reserve surged to a new record high in September. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows that gross international reserves, or GIR, increased to $112 billion, surpassing the previous record of $109 billion set in 2021. This figure is 4% higher than the $108 billion recorded in August. The central bank credits this increase to net foreign currency deposits, including $2.5 billion from a recent global bond sale. An upward valuation adjustment in gold holdings and net income from overseas investments also contributed to this growth. These reserves provide a crucial buffer for the Philippine economy, equivalent to 8.1 months of imports of goods and services, helping shield us from external shocks and from sharp currency fluctuations. Now, the Development Budget Coordination Committee, or DBCC, is considering raising the country's economic growth target this year following a drop in the latest inflation print. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman says the DBCC can hold a special off-cycle meeting in the fourth quarter to revisit its assumptions. This comes as headline inflation falls to 1.9% in September. This is the slowest rate in over 4 years. Since last June, the DBCC has maintained its 6 to 7% gross domestic product target for the year. Now, a revision in the economic growth target should signal stronger confidence in the Philippine economy's resilience and improving conditions for business and consumers. Now, banking giant Goldman Sachs lowers the odds of the U.S. slipping into a recession within the next 12 months. The firm now puts that probability at 15%, down 5 percentage points from its previous forecast. Goldman Sachs cites the strong September employment report, which shows the largest job gains in 6 months and a drop in the jobless rate to 4.1% as the reason for that revision. The Wall Street brokerage firm says last Friday's data resets the labor market narrative, easing concerns about a sudden weakening in job growth. However, Goldman Sachs warns that October could be challenging, with both a hurricane and a major port strike potentially impacting payrolls. This is important for emerging markets like the Philippines, as a strong U.S. economy can boost global demand and capital flows, providing much-needed stability amid volatile conditions. Elsewhere in the world, in Britain, the job market is showing more signs of cooling down, with pay growth slowing to its lowest level in nearly 4 years, signaling that businesses are holding back on wage increases amid economic uncertainty. According to a survey by the Recruitment and Employment Confederation and KPMG, companies are grappling with questions about the future of Britain's economy. The survey shows that many companies are uncertain about tax and economic policies ahead of Finance Minister Rachel Reeves' first budget announcement on October 30th. Reeves has already warned of possible tax hikes as the new Labour government plans to increase funding for public services and investments. KPMG also notes that the slowdown in pay growth could make a strong case for a rate cut at the Bank of England's November meeting. BOE Governor Andrew Bailey indicates that if inflation pressures continue to ease, more aggressive rate cuts could be on the table. This matters because a rate cut could boost economic activity, making it easier for businesses to borrow and invest, which would also have a ripple effect on global markets. Now, this year's Nobel Prize season officially kicks off with the prestigious award in physiology or medicine going to 2 U.S. scientists for their groundbreaking discovery of microRNA. MicroRNA is a family of molecules that plays a crucial role in regulating how cells produce proteins. The Nobel Assembly says the work of Victor Ambros and Gary Ruvkun uncovers a completely new principle of gene regulation fundamental to multicellular organisms like humans. Their research dramatically advances our understanding of how cells specialize and develop into different types, despite having identical genetic information. This discovery is important for human health and for global advancements in biotechnology and medicine, with potential implications for treatments of diseases like cancer and genetic disorders.
Oh, I was astonished and surprised, delighted. Everything you might expect. Significance of the discovery of microRNAs with regard to improving human health. Well, I mean, the most straightforward thing to say is the deeper we understand living systems, the better equipped we are to figure out what's wrong when these systems go awry in the context of disease.
The next Nobel Prize announcement for physics is expected later this afternoon, Manila time. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back to Basis Points Trading. At the Philippine Stock Exchange opened a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Now, after gaining 1.2% yesterday, the PSC index is in the red. We're seeing profit taking. It's down by 0.25% to 75.35. However, if you look at the bigger picture, analysts do say that the PSC is on course for its best year since 2017. That's as the market is generally up by about 17% year to date. Now, taking a look at the broader all shares index, we're seeing some selling pressure there as well. It's down by 0.1% to 40.77. The financials sub-index trading to the downside, as with the holding firm services and the property counters. Meanwhile, bucking that downtrend are gains in the industrial and mining and oil counters. Slight gains in those subsectors. Now, meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market. Let's take a look at how the peso is doing. The peso opened at 56.64, slightly weaker from its previous close of 56.38. And right now it's trading in between a range of 56.58 and 56.84. All right, now in other news, Gokongwei-led Cebu Pacific is acquiring boutique airline AirSwift from Ayala Land for 1.8 billion pesos in cash. Cebu Pacific says that the deal marks a significant step in expanding its services and network. For Ayala Land, the transaction allows the real estate company to focus on its core business and improve operational efficiencies there. AirSwift operates flights to popular tourist destinations including El Nido, Coron, Cebu, Boracay, and Bohol. Now, billionaire Kevin Tan is officially joining the board of his family's property business, Megaworld Corporation. He takes over from his mother, Catherine Tan, who has stepped down from her position. In addition to joining the board, the 45-year-old has also been promoted to executive director. Prior to this, Kevin Tan served as Megaworld's executive vice president and chief strategy officer. Now, over in the United States, a judge there orders tech giant Google to remove restrictions that prevent developers from setting up rival marketplaces to compete with its Play Store. The ruling states that for the next 3 years, Google cannot prohibit the use of alternative in-app payment methods and must allow users to access competing third-party Android app platforms. This decision follows a lawsuit by Epic Games, the maker of the popular video game Fortnite, which successfully argued that Google abused its dominance in the Android app market through its Play Store policies. Now, this is another antitrust setback for Google, which recently faced a U.S. case claiming it monopolizes online search and ads. This ruling could also create new opportunities for other app developers, boosting competition in the digital market. Now, a shocking new report from the United Nations reveals that criminal networks in Southeast Asia are widely using the messaging app Telegram, making it a hotspot for crypto fraud and money laundering. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime reports that hacked data, including credit card details, passports, and browser history, is being openly traded on the app's poorly regulated channels. Cybercrime tools are also sold, while unlicensed cryptocurrency exchanges offer money laundering services. The report identifies Southeast Asia as a major hub for a $37 billion industry, largely run by Chinese syndicates targeting victims worldwide with fraudulent schemes. This report comes after Telegram's founder, Pavel Durov, was arrested in Paris in August, facing charges of allowing criminal activity to spread on the platform. Durov states that Telegram will remove some features that have been exploited for illegal activities. This is a growing concern for countries like the Philippines, which is also vulnerable to cybercrime and fraudulent schemes targeting the digital economy. We're taking a quick breather. Basis Points will be right back. Welcome back to Basis Points. The Philippines and South Korea upgrade their bilateral ties to a strategic partnership, signing several key agreements. Among them is a memorandum of understanding between the country's coast guards, signed during President Bongbong Marcos's meeting with his South Korean counterpart Yoon Suk-yeol, who is on a 2-day state visit in Manila. Other agreements include pacts on nuclear energy, defense and security, economic development, and tourism cooperation.
Our decades of cordial relations have developed into a comprehensive partnership that spans political, defense, economic, social-cultural, maritime, and many other fields across various levels of engagement. And today, I am pleased to announce that the Philippines and the Republic of Korea have formally elevated our relations to a strategic partnership, adding further impetus to the strengthening and deepening of our cooperation in an increasingly complex geopolitical and economic environment.
The two leaders also discussed important regional issues such as the West Philippine Sea dispute and tensions in the Korean Peninsula. This partnership strengthens cooperation on critical areas that could boost security, economic growth, and regional stability for both nations. Elsewhere in Asia, Thailand's Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra is calling on the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to take a leading role in ending the civil war in Myanmar. Her statement comes ahead of the ASEAN Leaders Summit in Laos this week. She also mentions that Thailand will work with Malaysia using diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict, hinting at a possible renewed push from the ASEAN for a solution. Myanmar has been in turmoil since a military coup in February of 2021, which led to widespread protests. The conflict has left 1/3 of Myanmar's 55 million people in need of humanitarian aid. Before we wrap up, good news for pop culture fans. Over 1,500 memorabilia from beloved films are going up for auction in England next month. Among the highlights, Yoda's cane and a Sandtrooper helmet from Star Wars. An array of costumes will also be up for sale, including Michael Keaton's bat suit from Batman Returns, a suit worn by Daniel Craig in Skyfall, and even the iconic jacket worn by Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Other items include Harry Potter memorabilia and Clint Eastwood's famous duster coat from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The annual sale held by memorabilia auctioneer Prop Store runs from November 14th to the 17th and is expected to raise over £10 million, or about $13 million. This auction could be of interest to investors as memorabilia sales have become a lucrative market, with iconic pieces appreciating in value over time.
I think the buyers for props and costumes just is incredibly mixed and diverse, to be honest with you. We see some pieces go to museums, they go into institutions, they go to exhibitions for event, but we also see very passionate collectors who want to acquire these and have them and own them personally. They are much harder to display though, of course. Costumes take up a lot of space. So generally speaking, I think a lot of costume collectors have the costumes they have perhaps in storage for a period of time, and they might rotate them out. Props are a little bit easier to display, perhaps on a shelf or on a pedestal.
And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.